Parents, how did you watch your kid's life go down the drain? My youngest daughter Lynn was always a beaming beam of light. She was always the happiest girl. She never complained about anything. Unlike her older brother Joshua, it was around her freshman year of high school when I started to notice a slight change in her behavior. She started to wear more makeup and less clothes. When confronted about it, she would always get very angry with me, shouting about how it's her body and she can do what she wants. Another grand excuse was that but everyone else is doing it, mom. This was really hard for me to watch, because I was seeing my precious sweet little daughter trying to turn into what she thought was a real woman. I always tried to explain to her that makeup and wearing less clothes doesn't have to mean what everyone else is doing, and that she should take pride in what she wants to be. Regardless, she wouldn't budge, and I'm a big believer in more lax parenting, so at the time, I just let her be. I thought maybe it would just be a phase, but our relationship slowly got worse and worse. Debates became arguments, and arguments became fights. She would start to bring guys over, and while I didn't get a look at all of them, I saw some that looked twice her age. Then, one day, I snapped. I was going through her room when she was gone for school one day to try and find something I knew she had taken. While searching the nightstand, I realized there was a tiny white baggie that was tucked in behind the lamp. I had my fair share of college days, so I knew exactly what that little baggie entailed. I had a huge confrontation with her when we got home from school. She eventually started to yell at me, and I returned the favor. It got so bad that the next morning when I checked on her to see if she left for school, she had vanished. 2 suitcases in my closet had gone missing, and I called the police immediately. How could my sweet Lynn do this? Run away from me, the person who loves her most in the whole world. Brad and I searched the whole neighborhood, drove for hours around our smaller town. We would find nothing, and so would the police. After around 4 years of no contact, one of my daughter's friend's mom shared a concerning post with me on Instagram. It looked like a video of my daughter in a news report. At first I didn't understand why she would be on the news, but then I looked at the headline. Intimacy workers uproar in south side of town. I couldn't believe it. There was no way my daughter had really gone down that rough. The more I examined her in the clip, the more she looked drugged out of her mind. Tears started instantly floating from my eyes. Here I was sitting in my bedroom watching my daughter's life spiral out of control, and there was remotely nothing I could do about it. The video was from Los Angeles, California, and I lived in a small town in Texas. After a few days of living with this news, I decided that it was only right that I go and look for my daughter. In moments like this, I knew my child needed me. I booked the next available flight to Los Angeles and made my way there in less than a couple of days. The next few weeks consisted of me getting in my rental car and searching all over the south side of town just like the news report had said. I would pick a street, drive all the way down until it seemed to end, go over a block, and repeat. I knew the chances of me seeing her were slim, but I had no other choice. At that point, I knew the police were really no help, and so I didn't bother contacting them. One day, the miracle happened. I was driving down a desolate rundown neighborhood when I saw what looked like my daughter's distinct features. I got closer, rolled down my window, and shouted her name. Lynn. She turned around instantly, and there she was, my beautiful baby girl. I got out of my car and ran to her. To my surprise, she started running to me. Mom? Mom. We hugged each other like we never had before. Tears were rolling down each of our faces, and it was truly a moment I'll never forget. She got in my car after about 10 minutes of hugging and crying, and I took her to get food and sit down and talk. She still looked drugged out, and I could tell she was hurting. When we were eating, I thought we would have a good conversation, catching up about things and how everything was. Instead, she sat there with a dull look on her face the whole time, not really showing any emotion. I didn't know if this was the drugs talking, but it really spooked me out. I got her to conversate a little near the end of dinner, but after we finished, I got in my car expecting her to follow. She didn't. She just stood there staring at me. I asked her what she was doing. Didn't she want to come back with me and have a new start? She came closer to me and told me something that will haunt me for ages to come. I can't come where they will find me and hurt me. That is where I drew the line. At this point, I knew I had to get the police involved. I insisted on her coming with me, but she said that they were watching now and that they had already warned her without me noticing while we were eating. I told her to stay where she was and don't move as I called the police. As the phone was ringing, I noticed that she seemed to look off in the distance, looked at something, and then moved right back to me. She hugged me one last time, said, "I'm sorry, but I love you, Mom." Then she ran. She ran faster than I ever could. I tried to catch up, but she just outpaced me. Eventually, I tried to get in the car to find her, but to no avail. It seemed that someone had picked her up just like that, and I had lost my baby in a matter of seconds. The police said they would look into it as I was desperately explaining to them what had happened. It's been a couple of months since, and I'm more depressed than I have ever felt in my life. I drink my despair away, waking up with the most vile hangovers. I've had multiple unaliving attempts, and my son has raised the idea of going to a psychiatrist or even a mental hospital. Him saying that has only made my depression worse, and I am drowning in my own sorrow. I now know my daughter is in trouble and I couldn't even protect her when she was right there in my possession. I feel like a failure of a mother, a failure of a protector, and failure of a human. Seeing my own daughter's life spiral out of control made me fall into my own pit of despair. I strive for the day I see her again, but I felt like that was my last chance, and it makes me extremely sad that I might never see that beautiful face again.